Hello, everybody. Thank you once again for tuning into the In When Arrow podcast. I'm your host, John, and I'm back today with our special guest, Aiden Lupel. How are you doing today, Aiden?
I'm doing all right. How are you today?
I'm doing all right myself. Well, we have quite the conversation that we're hoping to have today. We're talking about the 4 philosophical perspectives in life. Those can honestly be anything for anybody, but the ones that we're determined to focus on today are existentialism, nihilism, stoicism, and absurdism, one of my favorites. So, we always have a little bit of a conversation before we get directly into this, just to preface what we necessarily want to talk about on the show. So, I do have a question for you, Aiden. I'd already asked you this, but I do have a great idea of what you'll want to say. Have you, my friend, ever had an existential crisis in your life?
I would say that ever since my existence, I've been in crisis, to be honest.
Since day one, since you were born, since the day you came out of the womb, it was an immediate crisis. Like the moon went blood red.
I would say so, yeah. It's I can't really recall a specific moment in my life when I had an existential crisis, as an event.
Sure.
It's just sort of been like this underlying theme of my entire life, just wondering why I exist, the nature of existence. I remember learning as a little kid about that, one day the sun will consume the earth, and I was like, what? I was
right in 5 billion
over
years
that
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good. Usually, when people when they struggle with existentialism, it usually comes to a grandiose scale of the universe and the cosmos. It's not just me and my house on a hill. I'm having an existential crisis considering how big these walls get. So that's a good thing to say, to kind of bring that in already, the comparison between how grand and how incredibly large the universe and the scale of the solar system can be. So
to put it more succinctly, I think my existence is the crisis. it's the problem I have to solve.
Well, you know what? That is actually very in tune with having an existential crisis, believing that your existence is the physical crisis. It's not just you're upset and you're alive. That would just be, feeling upset. It's that you're actually experiencing something detrimental in the form of my existence is, what's what I'm looking for? Fallible, I could say. My existence is not what it should be. It's not perfect in my desire. So I could say that I've also struggled with some things. I'll put it this way, man. The closest I've been to a true existential crisis of wandering the earth, finding or hoping to find my place in it. One day, maybe 2 years ago now, I was very depressed, and so I'd gone outside in the middle of the day, and I laid in the grass after I'd take all my clothes off. So I still had underwear on, and I had put like something on my face. But I laid out there for so long that bugs started to get familiar with my body. And so things were crawling over me, and I felt very in touch with nature, I'll tell you that. But for like maybe an hour or so, I just kind of, returned to earth. And it was, I don't know, the people around me, they were a little worried by that. They were like, "Ooh, John, you doing good?" And I was like, "I don't think so. No, I don't think so." So after hearing that, what do you think is I not to pressure you to like tell me something you don't want to say, but maybe another example, something similar that's like that happened in your life, perhaps. I'm not saying you have to lay on the grass and allow bugs to invade you.
I've walked many a train tracks.
Yeah.
I've just, for the most part, it's if I'm in that heightened state of worrying about my existence, I walk. I go for a walk on the train tracks, or walk on the street.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'll scribble in a journal for a half hour, asking stupid questions like what's the meaning of life, even though that's not really a good formulated question.
Well, that is perfect. Maybe as a just regular question, what is the meaning of life? It's pretty it's a pretty loaded question. But for
Mhm.
through the definition of existentialism, that is pretty much textbook. It is like what I have exactly here for definition. Emphasizes individual freedom, choice, and responsibility in creating meaning in an indifferent or chaotic world. So basically, searching for something that may or may not exist, and kind of you have to forge your own path. So I think that's a perfect analogy. Walking on train tracks. It's like the road that you choose to go, and they kind of work in both directions. But that road was made
Mhm.
for trains and other vehicles, not necessarily people. But you chose that
Yeah.
path because you have that ability to.
And on those paths, like with trains, there's junctions, there's forks in the road, there's different choices
Absolutely.
you make in life that take you wherever you're going.
And when you walk that path, when you walk these train tracks, and you're having your existential crisis, do you kind of think that these tracks are made for me or made for you in a way?
Do I think that they're made for me?
Yeah, as you walk them, like,
Yeah.
obviously it wasn't, they could be 50, 70 years old, but in a way, it was allowed for you in the same way.
I would say yeah. I would say yeah. I would say life and the path that I'm walking on was made for me.
Well, that's good.
Uh,
It allows for worthiness, and that would be the cure to the existentialism before you kind of head towards the path of our other
mhm.
perspective in philosophy.
Yeah, I think one of the thoughts I was having was people get caught up in this question like what is the meaning of life, but
Right.
that's not really the question that they're asking. They're asking what's the meaning of my life,
Yeah.
what is my purpose, what is my destiny, if there is a predetermined path that you take, or something that you're called to in life.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
a lot of people struggle with that because I think a lot of people just aren't seen or heard by their friends or family, and
Or
so they're
yeah,
not.
I could agree
It's
with that 100%. Um, and perhaps it's not just that people aren't seen, but maybe not seen in the way that they hope to be, or perceived in a way that would make them feel rectified in their own beliefs.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and that's kind of the worry of somebody if you're kind of going along the cyclical pattern of what's after, existentialism. For that, what I would say is next in line, kind of the progression of thought from one thought, you go to the next from the next, or from the last rather. Following that pattern, after existentialism, there comes nihilism. The definition I have for nihilism is life lacks inherent meaning, value, or purpose. It often involves skepticism about traditional, moral, religious, and social values. So basically, to kind of summarize in just one sentence what nihilism is, if you could ask yourself, if life has no meaning, for existentialism, you could say, if life has no meaning, like, what am I? Like, where is my place in the universe? Like, what do I do here? Am I important? Am I not? And it's when you start falling into the trap of, being more pessimistic, you could say that you become more nihilistic in the way you don't really see a future for anything, is if life has no meaning, why even try? And so I'll ask that question to you, my friend. If truly life has no meaning, I'm just taking the perspective of a nihilist today, or at least for this example.
Mm.
But if life has no meaning, why would it be worth it to try? Because if we could agree that inherently life means, only something to somebody, because they choose to allow it. But otherwise, it has no inherent meaning. It just is. So why should we try if life has no meaning?
Can I just think on this for like
Yeah,
just
no, that's totally fine. You're
like
good.
a little bit?
I think I'll
Because
get a good answer from you.
I have been in that place before in my life
Mm-hmm.
where I've felt life or my life has had no meaning, and it's a very hopeless, uh, the dejectful feeling, and there's no energy in that. There's no way forward. If personally for me, if I think that way,
Yeah.
but if there is no meaning to life, why should I try? I guess I'd have to play a little bit of some rhetorical game and be like, why not? Like, what else am I gonna do?
Precisely. Yeah,
Like
precisely.
if I don't try, then I really shouldn't have been born in the first place if I'm not gonna try. You know.
And that's why I say it's a very cyclical pattern of. That's a good pretty good response actually. Because
Thank
from
you. Thank you.
nihilism, yeah, absolutely. If you're going from if life has no meaning, why try? Next in line is actually stoicism, but a lot of times I do this myself is because I'm able to interpret what I would do in that case like beforehand, I can kind of skip over stoicism and immediately go into absurdism, which is if life has no meaning, why not try? It is the perfect antithesis, or is that the correct word? I think that means it completely encapsulates. Uh, Rather, it's the complete opposite of nihilism. So it's basically if life has no meaning, if everything is so crazily worthless, if nothing truly has value, why not give it value? Like, what's the harm in that, basically, you know? And when we assign things for the sake of, you know, assigning them to say this makes me happy because it does, it's like what, you know, it's hard to kind of conceptualize why. It's the choice of just I'm choosing instead to not revoke meaning from that which might have it and bestow meaning upon that which I choose to, simply because I have the ability to. And maybe it comes from a place of compassion, maybe it comes from a place of self-worth or self-love, but it certainly is a cure for those that are feeling like the world is meaningless and that they don't have a place in it. It's that, you know, yes, life maybe does not have any inherent meaning or value, but why not try? Is kind of my answer to that.
Yeah, I agree. There was a point in my life, because I can only speak from that experience, when I definitely would consider myself a nihilist, and that would have been, during my years in middle school and high school.
Yeah,
and then the evolution of that obviously is to go into absurdism, which is like, it's like, well, life's crazy and it might have no meaning, but who gives a rat's ass anyway?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Pardon my language.
I mean, that's no problem at all. But yeah, but truly, like, if that's the antithesis of, I mean, I guess I definitely use the word, but if that's, if that's the antithesis of my life is worthless, it's like, why not make something of it then? I'm sure we could find like reasons, like if somebody's physically disabled, I'm sure it'd be difficult for them to, play soccer or to, run if that's what they wanted to do. So maybe they could find justification to feel bad, or at least for themselves. But just as well, you should find reckless justification to feel happy.
Yeah, I think I like that, reckless justification to feel happy.
I'm going to clip that, actually. It's pretty good.
Yeah, write that down. So one thing I think is kind of interesting about the dichotomy of absurdism and nihilism is a lot of it really just comes down to tonality. And
yeah,
because you could say to yourself, nothing I do matters, and that's really depressing. Nothing I do matters.
Right. Yes.
But if you take the attitude, well, nothing I do matters.
Yeah.
I can do anything.
Exactly.
Nothing I do matters. There's no real tangible consequence to failure at that point. But I think, personally for me, there's more beyond absurdism. Like, life it's more than absurd. It's
right.
I don't know. I don't know how to put it into words.
Well, it's there's parts of life that we focus on more than others, and that allows us to say that there's parts that are possibly more valuable. We like to say, as us humans, that an animal's life is not as valuable as a person's life, and for the most of the time, or cases, yeah, that's true. But I guarantee that if you took a random stranger from a country that didn't speak the same language as you, and random person, completely like opposite end of the world, Laotian, boom, pick them up, middle of nowhere, boom, here's the Laotian. I'm gonna say, okay, this random person, we're gonna punch this guy in the face, or I'm gonna punch your dog in the face. You're gonna be like, whoa, don't punch my dog in the face. But it's a person versus an animal. There should be no distinction. If you're a perfect person, you should understand that a human's life is more valuable than a animal's life. Correct? That's just the inherent value that we assign to things. It means absolutely nothing, because at the end of the day, I'd rather a stranger in Laos or wherever, just for this example, to get punched in the face versus somebody punch my dog in the face, because I love my dog and I don't love that stranger like I would know them. So the cure for absurdism, which that usually leads into existentialism again, of like, if life has no meaning, why not try? And that existential, like, okay, well, then let's exist in life. Let's allow things to have meaning so that we can kind of enjoy things. But on the opposite side of existentialism, when you start to try to value things that maybe don't matter or have apply fictitious or your own conviction of morals on a certain preset of information, instead there's stoicism, which is focused on self-discipline, rationality, and aligning with nature to find inner peace. It's the belief that you cannot always control external events, but you can only control your reaction to them. So it's with that where you say, yes, it could be crazy that somebody would want to punch my dog in the face versus like, an actual person when my dog matters to me. But at the end of the day, you could say, would I allow that to ruin my life, or would I get over it after it healed? And that is the difference.
Yeah. Epictetus, I think you said it explicitly too. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters.
Precisely. I do want to hear what you have to say about Stoicism, because my understanding is that you consider yourself a Stoic, but not to say in a superfluous way, but just as well. Like, I do actually respect that a lot. So I want to hear from you in a way of somebody that maybe knows this better than I do.
I would consider myself an aspiring Stoic. I feel like it's even the Stoics themselves, they did not really consider themselves Stoic. They were aspiring to be Stoic, because it's like you said, it's about self-discipline. Like Epictetus, I got a bunch of quotes from him.
Yeah,
so Epictetus has some bars, I'll tell you.
Yeah, okay.
So one of his is, "No man is free who is not master of himself."
Oh yeah, yes, I like that.
So it's like if you're simply acting based on your whims and desires and impulses and baser animal instincts, then you're not free. There's discipline is freedom, is my understanding.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. I could, and I think you put it well to say like aspiring Stoic. I would love to say that I'm on my way to something, but aspiring to be something is not the same as embodying it. But
yeah, and speaking of embodying, Epictetus has another great quote where he says, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it instead."
That's a very that is probably one of the most important things we've said on this podcast so far.
Yeah,
it's very relevant today, especially in our current climate, just like in the world.
Yeah, like me and you can talk all this big head game about these philosophical thoughts, but if we don't actually go out in the real world and just embody it and live it out with as much grace as we can, then there's, I don't know, then we're just hypocrites,
Precisely. Like, who are we to tell others that we're, we feel or think a certain way, and then when push comes to shove, we don't exemplify that. I've said this for a while to myself. I've tried to harden my resolve. I want to become more of myself, and I want to be. I don't consider myself to be a pushover at all. I actually consider myself to have a very strong personality, and there's been many opportunities for times for me to falter where I was proud of myself or not. But I always try to preserve my sense of self, and I'm trying to, what I say is steel my resolve, the STEEL, like the one for knives.
Yes.
Oh, speaking
I got you the first time.
Oh, okay. I know you're a smart guy. I know that. But speaking of as well, actually, if you want this off the record, we can. But your father has a knife company that I would absolutely love to promote on a podcast sometime, possibly even this one, if that's something he's interested in. Absolutely, because he's got some really cool stuff.
Sure, man. I'll talk to him about that.
Yeah, I hope
he loves making blades and stuff. He's a little crazy.
Dude, you want to talk about stoicism? Your father, I've always been reminded that your father is a very stoic man, and a lot of his regards as well.
He is. Yeah. It's weird you say that, because he is sometimes he's not.
Well, I mean, you know him better than I do.
He definitely has. Right? He's definitely. Definitely in recent years he's been more stoic, but I remember he was very hot-headed when I was a young little lad.
Well, yeah,
but again, he also has too familiarized himself with different philosophical teachings, and He's a good guy. He makes knives.
Oh yeah, your dad's very respectable. I like your dad a lot. It's been because you got to remember, your brother I graduated with. And we can cut a lot of this out if you're not comfortable with it. But obviously I graduated with your
I
brother.
don't mind.
Okay, cool. You graduated, I think, with my sister. Like I went to preschool with your brother, man. Like I went through some old stuff the other day, and I found my preschool pillow, and your brother's on there, and I was like, this is hilarious. It says like that's beautiful. I'll probably edit his name out, but just as well. I think it's Kuma Knives. Is that correct? There's a
Yes.
Is it? Yes. So if he's comfortable with that, I'd love to do a shout out during our portion for that. Basically, whoever I have on, like if we're having a guest, I always want them to be able to share something during that portion as well. But yeah, so a lot of the portion, or a lot of what you said so far was about exemplifying what you are and who you say, or backwards, what you say and who you are. And so that's very important because a lot of people, and maybe we could even talk to those that we can criticize in our modern day world that don't exemplify, they don't practice what they preach. And I feel like that is just such a waste of effort to try to tell somebody to act a certain way, but then you yourself immediately go and do something against the value you're trying to share.
Yeah, Marcus Aurelius said, waste no time arguing what a good person should be. Be one.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have it. We're gonna let you go off on the quotes because I know.
Yeah,
but also,
that's all I have written down, to be honest.
No, that's totally fine. I mean, I like I said, I have a page of notes myself. But for everything when it comes to like being a good person, it's such a subjective idea of what a good person could be. Let me explain something to you in a way that would it's not even an analogy, it's a real life thing. It's a perfect situation to explain like a good moral situation done or possibly done in a wrong way. So as you know, we've had some conversations I've struggled with in years past, last year, some other things in the past, but also hopefully not this year as well. But I assume I'll be struggling with the homeless population in downtown Binghamton as I go into my 6th year in business for the ice cream business. So one of the things I wanted to do was feed the homeless on certain occasions, while on other times allowing them to, like go to the other resources. So if I say I'm going to go a certain place and then give out free food to the homeless, that would be a good thing, right? We would say that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree.
That's a good thing. Now, here's the problem. Doing that would then be encouraging people, probably if you did it once, people would want you to do it twice. And if you did it twice, they'd probably expect you to do it another time. And so you want to provide, and this is a real life circumstance because this is what I would like to do if I could. Literally just like make a ton of sandwiches, go in a certain area and start handing them out. It can't be that expensive. $20 to feed like 20 people, whatever. So, but the thing is, if congregations of certain populations of people are causing problems, whether they be homeless or not, let's just say hungry people for this instance. If they wanted to come and they wanted to see me and I wasn't there and then they caused some type of issue, that could be a problem for wherever I decided to go and feed those people. So now we have an opportunity for there to be a police presence involved because people are upset, people are yelling, people are angry that I'm not doing something that I was doing basically for free or 100% for free to them. So it's like a good thing gone wrong because people wanted to act a certain way or be a certain way, whether it was like selfishness or whether it was like other people didn't want that to happen or whatever. So basically the problem that we have in life is if we want to do something good, it has to be done good with good intentions the right way. It can't just be something that's good, bad intentions, and then carried out incorrectly because that's just talk and basically that's a waste of time and resources. So I feel like it's a good example to a modern day standpoint of like maybe I don't want to. We could talk about religion for sure. I don't really want to talk about politics per se in this podcast, but for example, things that people say in modern day culture versus how they actually practice it themselves. I think that's a good callback to what you've been saying exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious as to what your criteria for the right way to do a good thing would be.
So,
because I have my moral structure with the religious thought that I've gone through, but I know you're agnostic or atheist. So, like, what would be the criteria of the right thing?
I'm an atheist myself. My kind of reasoning, I guess we could say that that's kind of like the question, like why do you do that, or like what's the good way to do that is just like, I'll put it like this. I'm very pragmatic. If a certain situation calls to act a different way, then I will act accordingly. Because, and this is like this is an example of a bad saying used in a good way, which is like the ends fit the means. So if my goal was to feed the homeless, and so that's like the goal. Like at the end of the day, if I'm feeding the homeless, mission accomplished, right? And then like the means would be like going somewhere after buying the stuff and making the sandwiches or whatever it is and giving that away. And then the intention would be I want them to be happy, I want them to be full. So that's doing something with good intentions, doing it the right way, which is, it's not a very difficult process to understand. Going somewhere safe, handing out food that's healthy, to people that are not allergic to it. So that's like good intentions, doing it the right way. And at the end of the day, I guess that's kind of like all three of them. Because at the end of the day, my mission was I wanted to feed homeless, they got good food, and it was through the intentions of me wanting to do a good thing. A bad way about that would be I want to feed the homeless, I want to feed them rat poison, I want to feed them in front of a news station so it can get a bunch of coverage. That's doing something that, at the end of the day, yeah, I'm feeding the homeless. They're eating rat poison, and the way that I'm doing it is to publicize that like I'm killing these homeless people, like basically in front of like whatever. So that's a way to do something is not always your morally right way to do it. Sometimes it's just what needs to happen. Like what if my morals dictate that I hate homeless people and that I need to kill them? Or that I was of a religious sect that said like, death to homeless people or something. Like that was my religion where we went out and that, obviously that's against a lot of moral belief. That's also against a lot of law, especially in this country. You can't just do that. But say that we had justification in a country that allowed that. Would it be a good thing or would it be a bad thing that I completed the goal of doing a good thing to a lot of people, feeding the homeless, but I accomplished it through inhumane means, and my intentions were not, for the betterment of those people? Like, would that be a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm sorry, can you run that by me one more time?
So if I did if I did a good thing, but my intentions were to harm people, and my way of going about it was, to promote more like of their bad doing. Say like, not what's the opposite of well-being? Just like bad being, not bad. Basically, if I had good intentions about doing something, but it was like a bad thing to do, would it be a good thing or would it be a bad thing? Like for that specific example, feeding the homeless, like if feeding homeless healthy food, good thing. Feeding the homeless bad food, not good thing for some reason. Why? They're both feeding the homeless, but it's like, there's nuances to that, and that's why you have to approach things pragmatically to say, okay, what's the situation call for? How do we act accordingly? Not, well, this is what I think is right, so we're going to do it every time.
I believe truly it all depends on where your heart is at. Like
right, so like your intention.
Yeah, like if you do something, if you're trying to do something good but you fail at it, it doesn't mean you're bad. It just means you fail.
Perfect.
And failure isn't bad. And I was actually, as you were explaining your little hypothetical scenario, it reminded me of the phrase, give a man a fish and he can eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he can eat for a lifetime.
Right. And how did that help with the situation that I concocted? What was the connection that you'd drawn?
I think it's just, I don't know, the food connection, I guess. I don't even know who said that, to be honest. I just know that it's like teaching people things is more important than gift giving, And I mean, of course, it's my belief that I should have no attachments, so I should really have no problem with giving things to people if they need it. If someone asks for my help, I want to give it to them. But more importantly, I think it should be my duty to teach people what I know to be true and what I know can help them.
And
that makes sense.
And your intention in doing that is that you feel like they would do better with that information, right? And that they could help themselves in a regard that would be a healthier, happier world or life for them.
Yeah, because I think again, I'll throw another quote. This one's from Star Wars.
Yes, yeah.
So one of the quotes from a character from Knights of the Old Republic 2 is, there's this sort of gray Jedi character named Kreia,
I got
and
you.
she says, if you wish to aid everyone in the galaxy, you only weaken yourself and them.
Yes.
So it's
Oh, that's a really good quote. Wow. From Star Wars.
yeah,
That's
like
crazy. That's really good.
yeah. So it's not condemning helping people, and it's saying if you're using all of your energy to help everyone and make their lives easier, you're only making your life harder and their life harder because you're weakening their resolve and their will,
Yeah.
and you're wasting all of your will on people who might not even be grateful for your help.
And that's beautiful because that ties into like if you so and that's perfect for stoicism because if your advent is to become more in touch with nature and focus more on self-discipline, you have to really build that wall between helping somebody and then helping somebody even if it's at your expense. And that's like a
Mm-hmm.
very important thing to understand for yourself is where are you jeopardizing your own person and your own resolve, or not even really, yeah, sure, your personality or whatever, by trying to help somebody that might not even want it or reciprocate it. And that's a tough thing
Yeah.
to deal with.
To me, I mean, I don't want to get stuck on religion, but to me, that's the beauty of Christianity is that that's the whole point of Christianity is that, like, the idea is that God came to help us, and we don't even care that he came to help us and show us the way, but he did it anyway.
Well, I
But
think
we don't we don't we don't have to get
no,
caught up on that.
that's okay. I mean, religion and philosophy are basically, well, to a certain extent, like
They're cousins.
that's a good way to say. I was gonna say maybe they're like, because one was like one has a dogmatic approach and the other is more like a, because philosophy doesn't actually exist. There's no such thing as philosophy. It's a construct of human imagination. Um,
Philosophy is just thinking about thinking.
Yeah, yes. Somebody said, and I don't have like a direct quote for this. Maybe whatever. But basically, somebody said the most useless conversation is one of philosophy, because it's like
Yes.
talking about things, and it's like yeah, it's like talking about a TV show. It's like okay, nothing that you say is going to change it. Nothing that that conversation is going to do anything about it. Like it's just for fun basically. But I had said this one time. It is not in my book actually. It's a quote from my book, but it's not about basically humanity. It's about the subjective exploration of humanities. It's like nobody cares about a person, but we'll talk about the news where 3 people died in a flood, like for years and years and years. But the person that's like wallowing away or like dying of cancer, like right before our eyes, we'll be like, yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? But we'll fantasize or we'll create these worlds or these storylines where it's like terrible things happen to people. It's like, do we love suffering then? Do we like to see that? Like every story that's ever been created has conflict. So it's like, do we
I
yearn
would
for conflict? Do we yearn for suffering? For entertainment
I
value?
I would say personally, at first, I was very averse to suffering and not wanting to look at the problem of my life or the problems of my life, and I wanted to turn away. But I think you find pleasure in that suffering. I think, and I think that's why we look at those stories. Is because we want to extract the lessons learned from that.
I think that's yeah.
Uh,
I think that's very fair as well. Um,
yeah,
for some people,
Seneca
yeah.
Seneca said this. He said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials."
That's so good. That's really good. Yeah, I can agree with that a lot. I've said this before. I think I've even said this to you, but I had a basically a conversation with myself many years ago that was basically things are going to be really difficult for probably 10 years, for the next 10 years until you're like 30 or so, and maybe things will get easier after that, but it won't get easier until basically things get worse. So with that in mind, like I tell myself, I have 2 hands, more like I got 2 shovels, and I got to eat a lot of shit. So it'd be a good thing I got 2 shovels for it. Um, but at the end of that, yeah, maybe it's worth it, and there will be some lessons that we can find for sure. But that's absolutely true. I have never known a man that I could say I truly look up to or somebody that I respect that had an easy life. Absolutely.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
No.
absolutely not. But yeah.
The people you respect are the ones who've gone through the most.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the people that I mean, just the people in my mind right now that I'm thinking of, like, yeah. I mean, well, how about this? Bob Ross. You're familiar with Bob Ross, I'm sure everybody is.
Yeah.
He was a drill sergeant in Vietnam. And after the war was over, he got into painting. I think he was always a painter. Actually, his father was a painter. They lived in Alaska. I love Bob Ross. He's an idol of mine. Actually, he's actually, growing up, we were never alive at the same time, so he was like a mentor for me. I never even knew him, but to me, growing up, he was an idol of mine. And because he had such a calm demeanor, he had such a soft and caring approach to delivering information, and the people that he interacted with, he did through kindness, and he did with an intention of helping them. However, that came from his understanding that terrible things happen to people that are good people sometimes, and bad things don't happen to people that are bad people sometimes. He had said that he never wanted to raise his voice again because after screaming at the people that he had to, like he was in the army, he never wanted to again. And you don't learn that without first having to experience hardship. So the person that we can praise him to be and say, Bob Ross, you're an incredible human being, or at least you were, was because he had gone through the terrible thing that was the Vietnam War as a drill sergeant. And afterwards, he realized that I don't want to be like that anymore. But he would never have learned that otherwise. That's very difficult to understand.
I think what you just said there is the point of growth. It's like, I don't want to be like that anymore.
Absolutely.
And just having that thought of like, I don't want this anymore. You're letting go of something you're holding on to.
Right, and there's priorities that you can say shift in your life where you think something's important at one time, and then it's not very soon after, or sometimes a very long time after. Relationships.
I'm also.
Yeah.
Yep. I was just gonna say, I'm picturing in my head for some reason, Bob Ross just shouting at people like, "There are no mistakes, just happy accidents."
That's the thing.
Get back on the line, soldier.
Well, first I'll call him out real quick. He did not have that afro. Not real, a perm.
So we're for real.
Yeah,
he's a fraud.
And but also, basically, he got in touch with like nature, and he had like there are sections of the show where he did stuff with like animals and stuff. I don't want to repeat like terrible things that were going on during the Vietnam War. If you're not privy to the understanding of what the Vietnam War was, this is not the place for that, or at least not this time, however. Maybe in the future we can talk about the Vietnam War. But regardless, terrible things happened, and he was basically like a complete opposite person. Like, I can't picture him freaking out and screaming like that, but I think it's a testament to him and his personality afterwards that he seemed so calm that you could not picture him doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can agree. I do think it just as well. It's almost like, no, not that guy. Not Bob Ross screaming and making people eat dirt. That's not fair.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I mean, I could consider Bob Ross probably a stoic. I would probably say that he was along that.
Yeah. I would say so. I don't know who said this one. I don't know who said this quote, but a man cannot, what's the word? I don't know. I might be getting this wrong, but a man cannot be perfected without suffering because he is both the sculptor and the sculpture,
I think I've heard that before, yeah. I like that one.
I might have butchered it, but...
No, I understood. Yeah, 100%, because if you're working on yourself, that's basically the most important job you can do at the time. If you can and this is something that I need a lot of people to kind of have an introspective moment with themselves. If there is a part in your person that you say is not perfect, then you're halfway there. But if you can look at yourself and say, no, I'm perfect. I, one, probably don't want to associate with you. Please don't come to my house. Two, yes, you're absolutely, no, you're absolutely wrong. There's absolutely some things that you need perfecting or need working on. And there is no such thing as a perfect human either. We can be more perfect versions of ourselves, but we can never be that true attained perfection or that idea of what we are, what we hope to be in perfection. But I think a lot of the things that we've said here today so far have been basically don't be a hypocrite. I think if there's anything to say so far, it's like Don't be a hypocrite. If you're going to be so profound in your conviction towards people, you yourself better not just be convinced, you better be wholeheartedly convinced and practicing, doing what you're saying or what you're telling other people to do. We could get into, and that's a pretty easy rabbit hole to go down as far as like politics are concerned. Have an opinion about something but act a certain way. It's like you can say, how about this? This is something more closely related, especially as things are going more recently. A lot of people that voted for Donald Trump during the last election, or a good population of people were actually like Hispanic voters or people that were at one point immigrants. They had immigrated to this country, so they weren't born in the United States. And it's odd that we've seen somehow that these people are very, very much anti-immigration. And I even had a conversation with somebody who was an illegal immigrant from California, and he said to me, "It's so odd." I forget what he said exactly, but he's basically as soon as they get off the boat, or what's he say? Like he gets that 1 foot on dry land. As soon as they get that 1 foot on dry land, immediately Trump supporter. It's like, how can you be so? Like you are yourself an immigrant. You immigrated to this country, and as soon as you get here, you're like anti-immigration. It's like you wouldn't even have the voice to speak to people, to tell them like you feel this way if you weren't in this country because of what you're defying. So it's very hypocritical in a larger sense. Not even to like speak to whether that's a good or a bad thing, but that's just a very interesting dichotomy between people. Like as soon as they get here, as soon as the going gets good for them, they completely disregard how things weren't or how the benefits that they used to get here. I find that very very interesting in a unworthy type of way.
I'd say humanity suffers from perpetual cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, I could agree with that as well. But it's like, what is it exactly that perpetuates that? Like, is it like politicians that say that? Is it people's own conviction of moral belief? Is it a religious subtext? Because I know a lot of things in religion say that like love thy neighbor, or that I'm not sure as far as like immigration goes necessarily. I'm not privy to the exact nomenclature for how the Bible addresses immigration, or how the Quran or the Torah or whatever else. But what I can say as myself is this: the United States, and the majority of the people that are in this country are not from this country, and that's fine. My family, I'm like a fifth or sixth generation, I think fifth generation American at this time. But, that doesn't mean that, there's people in this country that are here 10 times longer than my family has been, or longer than that if you're a Native American. So it's like, where do we draw that line, like where it becomes important? Where does that dissonance start, say? Like, where does it come from?
I think I I don't really know, to be honest, where the dissonance comes from, because I suffer from it myself. Constantly every day I'm catching myself saying one thing and doing the other.
Where do you
Uh,
see, like, where do your influences come in? Where are you like, I'm doing something because somebody had taught me or told me about it, not because it's like, my own personal volition that's making me do this today.
what's exactly the question?
So what's something that where do you get your influences from? Like TV or social media, your friends and family, or just anybody? Like
I try to get it from books, to be
oh,
honest.
that's bad. That's
Books, books, and people I admire.
well, that's good.
Um,
I feel like, yeah, that's good. A lot of people could probably use that.
um,
Well, who
because
are some people you
I
admire?
personally in my life, one of the people I admire is one of my coworkers named Noel.
Hmm.
I consider him to be a very kindred spirit. We're both very much into philosophy and religion, and
Was he the one that was on
he
your
can.
podcast?
Yes, yeah,
Yes, he actually had, he had dealt with some mental health issues. He was telling me, or I mean, he wasn't telling me, but he was telling you quite the story. As I was listening, I was like, wow, this is pretty heavy stuff, pretty intense. I can see why you look up to him.
yeah. But I don't know. I guess the Stoics, for one, obviously I look up to them, but I also see their flaws too. I see the hypocrisy, the cognitive dissonance of like someone like Marcus Aurelius. He's like saying and writing down all these good things, but he's also the emperor, and the emperor carried out executions, and the emperor persecuted, various groups of people. So it's not like we live in a perfect world.
Well,
But I try to model myself after the people I can only assume are, worthy of admiration.
and I think that's a very important part of philosophy of why people speak about it is because we understand that even if somebody is not perfect, there can be things they say or do as an example that allow us to say that part of it was maybe perfect, or maybe that is worth them being the person they are. So that goes back to saying, like, if a bad person does something and it's a good thing, like, are they a bad person? Okay, if a serial killer decides to donate $1 million to the Red Cross, are you gonna be like, wow, round of applause for that person? Are you gonna be like, ooh, you already killed like 36 people? What's that? Is that really helping? Or are you kind of like balancing out your karma on this one? So it's like, where exactly, you kind of just have to say, if a good thing happens, allow it to happen. If it comes from a bad source, like, that's okay
Yeah,
sometimes.
I agree.
It's where you really have to understand, like, if your intention is to help people and you don't agree with a certain selection of people, say, and this is why it's easy to do for politics. I'll give an example. I'm not going to say you are. I'm just saying, like, hypothetical straw man. So a Democrat says that they want to help the homeless, and this is just like a very easy thing. They want to help the homeless. And Republicans say that, yeah, we're going to help the homeless, but we're going to do it in this way. And the Democrats are like, well, we're both helping the homeless, but, we also want to do it like this way, not your way. Well, the homeless person is going to be like, yeah, I just need help, most of the time. Like, it doesn't matter if it's red or blue help. It's just got to be help. And say, for this example, we're not going to say that, there's any type of moral high road to be taken, but just for the Republicans of this hypothetical, they say, well, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Democrat, we're going to work with you and we're going to help the homeless. But say that specific Democrat or, whoever it is says, well, I don't want to work with you guys, and decides not to help at all on the pure basis of they don't want to work with that person. That, you want to talk about dissidence, that is dissidence, because wanting to help somebody should be the intention, not wanting to help somebody your way. And that, it could be either way for whatever, if that emboldens the Republican in that situation, just flip-flop them, or whatever you decide, or come up with different scenarios, because that's what this whole thing should be about. Entertaining thought and coming to conclusions, sharing information that's worth basing understandings off of. And that's kind of what I try to do here, at least. So I think there's a lot of validity in what you said, for sure. But I feel like a lot of it does call back to doing something either the right way, with the right intentions, because you want to accomplish something good. It's like that three-way test almost.
Yeah. I don't really have too much thoughts on that. Sorry.
No, yeah, I just kind of gone off on a, but yeah. So that all kind of goes back to like the very core foundation of, who we decide to, or like what I was trying to kind of say from you, like Marcus Aurelius. Yes, he was the emperor. I think it was the emperor of Rome. Do you know like the specific time?
Want to say like 200s, but I can give it a Google.
Yeah, let's check that out.
Let's give it a.
Oh yeah, just as well. Like, so I have aspirations, and maybe I've said this on here before, but I want to be the United States president when I'm 40 years old. I think I'll try that out. And I know just as well that I want to be a great leader. I want to be a good example. I want to be a good person. I want to promote good feelings, well-being. I want people to be healthier after I'm done. However, just as well, I understand that if something happened, I have to, in that scenario, be the final say in if people live or die. And I cannot say that I'm such a perfect humanitarian person, yada yada, whatever, when something like that happens, you have to set aside some of your moral conviction and say, we got to do the right thing. And the right thing at this time maybe is not preserving my moral conviction. It is, assigning some troops to go deal with terrorists or, whatever. You just kind of have to say, like, yeah, bad things are going to have to happen from, good people. But it's like, hopefully that good person doesn't do it in the worst way. Say that you get somebody who's like not focused on humanitarianism or does not have consideration for the people that they're trying or getting attacked from and willing to attack again. So say a certain person in that position then wants to like really overtly, absolutely crush them, wipe them out, flatten them forever. That's doing something like, it achieves basically the same thing of eliminating the threat, but like the way you did it, it's either exacerbating more harm, it's allowing for something else to come in and do it worse, or recycle the whole issue. Or you can have a pragmatic approach, change how you approach every single problem, because everything's got its own opportunity to be different. So then that allows you to kind of, and I hate using this word, what is it, decompartmentalize. Like, that's such an overused word for like people that are trying to promote something, like you just gotta have that different part of your brain, that decompartmentalized place. Like, but truly, like, if you're focusing on addressing an issue in a pragmatic style, you have to individually assess the situation differently every time, and that allows, sometimes you're more moral, sometimes you're less moral, but it's about the best way to approach the situation. So this long thing I'm trying to say is basically, I am a pragmatic, or I'm a pragmatist. I think that's how it's said, a pragmatist.
Yeah, I like pragmatism. I try to not get jaded with pragmatism, though, because I know there's that moral ambiguity of it sometimes. Yeah.
And that's what most people would struggle with. It's like, well, say we're a church or we're an association, and like we do things the exact same way every time because we have a very clear moral standard. It's like, yeah, okay, but not every situation is going to call for the same needs, so you got to do things different most times, every time,
Mm-hmm.
That's just what I think, at least.
You need the right tool for the right job.
Exactly. I mean, you want to talk about the right tool for the right job, dude. I used to make guitars. Like, yeah. You want to talk about a pragmatic approach? like you might be building the same style of guitar 3 different times, but there are things that change every time, and it is useless to try to say that we're gonna be the one variable that doesn't change. We're the constant. Yeah, bullshit. You're the constant.
Have you ever played guitar, or you just made them?
I didn't really play so much. I couldn't even say that I'm like proficient in guitar, but I have some songs that I wrote myself, and I did have an opportunity to get to like express it on guitar. So I can't say I really play, and it's been quite a while since I've actually played a guitar at all. But no, I can't really play guitar. But I guess I did when we made guitars, kind of.
I think you could play guitar from the little bit you told me.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody gave me a guitar, I mean, like building them, dude. Yeah, I could show you how it works. I know how guitars are, like up and down. At first, a lot of people think it's just like, maybe this is the case for a lot of things. It's a lot easier than it looks. Maybe it's not even, because guitars are a really difficult thing to make. And when you don't have like that, I know how to get this certain sound, and when I, touch this certain place, like you don't have that perfect understanding. But no, I'm not really that great at instruments outside of like percussion. But I don't know, that's like subset, because like anything's a percussion instrument, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean, and it's funny you say that, because I definitely see you as a percussion person. You're all about the rhythm,
Yeah, or like the
beat.
Well, actually, I'm technically the singer. That for my distinction of where I sit in a band, I could play like the drums. I'm not really that great at the drums. It's been a while.
Okay.
But I can act. I'm the songwriter. I'm very good with words. I can write well, and so I was always the songwriter of my friends. Oh man, I could actually grab this. Speaking of my band book, you want to talk about philosophy? Here we go. This thing is so. I mean, when I was 16, I created this notebook, and it's just like I burned pages out of it because they had like things I didn't want people to see, or it's got a bunch of stickers all over. It's all duct taped up. It's got writing from like high school and all this stuff.
I got a book similar to that. It's got coffee stains and it's just bled through. It was just doodles from random people.
It's got some cool stuff though, I'll tell you. So I went to, back when I was 19, when I crashed my car trying to kill myself, I went to CPEP. I went to CREMS 3, which was the mental hospital. There's 3 different levels at BGH, Binghamton General Hospital. And this book was actually one of the things that I asked to bring, because it had a bunch of very depressive songs in it and stuff with my friends, so it was just like a good reminder, Anyway, I actually wrote a song while I was in there. I wrote a song with a girl named Chelsea. feel bad. Her name was Kelty, actually. Kelty. She wrote on piano and I sang. And I think it's actually a pretty good song. I have all the notes right here. I'm not gonna like sing any of it. That'd be absolutely embarrassing. But yeah, something small like this is just the book that I brought in to so many people. You know, we actually got to like play and sing a song. That meant a lot to them. That meant a lot to those people. That we were like okay, that we were all right, that we weren't gonna succumb to our illness quite yet. That we could at least come up with a song, we could sing and rehearse a couple times, and that somehow made it seem like things were gonna be all right. That was a big day for me. I like that.
I'm glad. I'm glad you had that.
Oh
That's
yeah.
that. I definitely attribute my perpetuated existence to music and songwriting
Yeah.
because before I started to learn guitar and write my own music, I was in an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Let's to tie it back.
Oh no, yeah,
But
100%. Yeah.
after I after I got into that flow state of writing music, I started to I would write down things that I had struggled with in my head for so long, and here I was just writing it as poetry, and I'm like, oh, there's the problem solved.
Perfect.
It's
That's
weird.
like I couldn't give you a better opportunity to, find a way on your own to feel better. Is through music and through expression.
Yeah, whatever your problems are in life, there's some way that you can express it to alleviate some suffering,
Right.
and then no matter who you are.
Healthy ways, of course, as well.
Yeah.
More healthy ways than just drugs, alcohol, and violence on occasion. Not to say that you're taking part in any of that, but I actually want to ask you.
I was.
Oh,
Don't get me wrong.
oh
I
no,
did
no,
that
I
stuff.
was. Don't worry, I certainly was. Me, oh yeah.
Listen, I did it. I mean, I have qualms about it now, but
Yeah.
I certainly went through all of my options.
Yeah, things certainly got. But I want to ask you. If you are into making music, you should post some of the things that you maybe are more, um, well, maybe just anything. If you're willing to post it, then it's worth posting. But I would like to see some of your music content. I would love to see some maybe the videos, or maybe make a video of a recording that you did, because I will tell you, I guarantee you'll be surprised by how many people will be interested in something like that. A lot of people, they refrain from posting things like that because one, they're embarrassed, or two, they don't think people would like it. If you can get past the bit of embarrassment, dude, I make sock videos every day. I literally go and show people my feet every day. I just, here you go, guess what socks I got on? Oh wow, that's so great. And I've done it for over a year and people love it. And I was so surprised that I would actually build an audience and people would enjoy it. And it's just my damn feet and socks. And I would really encourage that if you want to do it and to just try it out. I'll be your first, I'll be the first person to help you promote it and all that, just to get your foot in the door with other people. Because I guarantee, if you're feeling any sort of way, or maybe even if you're going through an existential crisis at this time being, that'll help. That'll help a lot more than you think as well. Because it'll take one person that you don't know. It'll be a stranger that comments that says, "Wow, good job, keep going." You'll be like, "Wow, I'm gonna remember this forever."
Yeah, I have shared some of my music online, but I am as an artist, we're picky.
Oh yeah,
we're
believe me, man.
we're
Yeah.
but yeah, I think I have some stuff on YouTube of my band and on Facebook too.
I have seen some of it.
But
There's a video with you with a acoustic guitar. I think you're like wearing a hat or something.
yeah, and I've been thinking recently about going back to some of the songs I wrote and recording them. So I feel like I got some good stuff, and I don't know. People say I'm good, so
I would love to
I
see
don't
it,
know.
man. I
I
would
don't
absolutely.
necessarily believe them, but I got some words and notes.
You just gotta try it out, man. I'm not sure if you knew, but so more recently, Mac Miller released more music. He's been dead for like 5, 6. Actually, he's been dead like 6 years, since like 2019 or 2020 or so. He somehow humorously is still releasing music because he had like what was it, like 50,000 songs that were just unreleased by the time he died. Imagine that. Imagine how much music people are sitting on that they don't think is great, and it just gets released, and then it's like number one best hit because they just don't trust or they don't believe, or at the very least, for somebody like you, Aiden, you have so much faith. Just have faith in yourself as well, and just do it. Just do it. Believe
I don't even know.
and
I don't even know how much of it is me not believing that it'll do well or like be perceived well. I feel like it's some of it is just like a selfish desire of like I don't want to let go. I don't want to share it because it's very intimate. You know the
that's
things
fair.
I.
Yeah, you don't have to share everything though. Like that's the thing. It's entirely up to you. Everything in life, it's always just up to as much as you're willing to do. Just share what you're willing to share, and maybe you do get to a point where you feel more comfortable, or there comes a day where you feel like something needs to be said, and you have the perfect way to say it.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I've recorded myself singing so many times, and I'm like, no, I can do it
I'll
better.
tell you.
And then it never gets posted.
Get a TikTok then, because TikTok has the most curated audience ever. People are just so like. There's people that can be mean, like mean or rude. Like you're not gonna be a wimp on there. If people say something like, "Oh, this is ass," you're gonna be like, "Yeah, your mom's ass." But so it's not gonna be a big deal. But TikTok, I'm telling you, man, make like a 25-second video, 10, 15-second video of you just singing or something like that. Somebody will like it. Somebody will comment it. You'll be very, very surprised that you'll get support from it. That's my advice to you on all this. Because if you truly do feel like it's helping you in a regard, I would say go for it. Go for it.
All right.
It's
Well,
worth it, man.
I might have to take you up on that.
Yeah, please do, man. I'm all about encouraging people to do more of what makes them happy. I always, always tell people, do more of what makes you happy. Just that. I have a keychain somewhere. When I was like 20 or so, for Christmas, my parents had got me a knife set, like a kitchen cutler, like real knives, or nice
Yeah.
knives. Um, Speaking of, we'll do the promotion in like 2 seconds. But and it came with this keychain that said, "Do more of what makes you happy." And I was like, "Yeah." It's like that's from a knife set, from a Damascus steel knife set from like Amazon, and I was like, "This is great." So I've said that a lot, but absolutely, if I have any advice to share to people, it's that much. There's exceptions like until it starts hurting people and still it becomes detrimental to your health, whatever, whatever. But truly, just do more of what makes you happy. Maybe that could be more of our absurdist reality of like everything is just happening all at once. The world is unprepared for everything constantly. Nothing goes the way it should ever. So just do more of what makes you happy, and you will at least be on the right track of becoming happier. At the very least, if anything goes correctly, just feel a little better today, or at least try to.
Mm-hmm.
That's my.
So while we're on this topic of music,
Yeah.
I just want to say one. I just want to say one thing before you get into
No, go for it.
your sponsor or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a quote by Alan Watts that I love.
Sure.
Are you familiar with Alan Watts?
I can't say that I am, but the name maybe sounds familiar, but
Yeah.
not over.
I think you would like him a lot. I think.
Alan Watts. Sure.
But anyway, he lived in the I want to say 60s, 70s, and he gave a lot of public lectures then.
Okay.
And they were very mystic in nature, but not necessarily religious or anything.
I got you. Okay. What's he say?
And so he says, "We thought of life by analogy, with a journey, a pilgrimage, which had a serious purpose at the end, and the thing was to get to the end, success or whatever it is, maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or dance while the music was being played."
I like that a lot. Yeah, that
Yeah,
really well.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, will just be in life thinking like, I have to get the next thing. I have to get the mortgage, get this, get that, get that. I have to build my character up and, find success or be so good that I get to heaven. But it's like,
Yeah.
no, man, we're all in this together and we all have our parts to play. Just play them.
Yeah. I really like that a lot because I try to embody a lot of that. It's just like the exceptionalism of life to begin with, just like how things are, the fact that we're here. It's like the people that are pessimists or that, like, and that's a very difficult thing for me as well, like being a nihilist sometimes or having nihilistic tendencies. But just as well, it's that, it's what you make of it. And sometimes life is difficult to make something good of it. But at the end of the day, if you went through your whole life and you felt like you were just, I'll put it this way. I have been in business for a while. I've spoken to some very wealthy individuals. I've spoken to some very poor individuals. And the wealthy individuals have very little difference from the poor people. That's a surprising thing to some. But when you get to a certain level of wealth, you might as well just not have any money because it doesn't matter anymore. Most of the things they get, they don't actually spend money on. They get because they know people, or they get because they're able to facilitate it in some way. It's not just like, okay, anything I want, boom, snap my fingers at the end of my fingertips. Yes, perhaps. But it's through the, okay, how did I get it? It's not the, I bought a bottle of wine. It's on my trip when I went to France, a beautiful woman came up to me, introduced me to this club. We went to this club, and at the bar they had this wine that I love. So that you cannot buy. Nobody can buy that. You have to enjoy that. And it's not without enjoying that moment becomes savory. And so that is the epitome of life, is to enjoy it. So there's no meaning to life, but there's things we can do in life that allow for meaning. And the more meaning that we have, most of the time, the happier we're allowed to be, or we're allowing ourselves to be. Or at least that's what I think. But yeah, the largest thing I've noticed really between, like, like poor and rich people, like the rich people will say, like, yeah, okay, I just bought a new house, and oh wow, good for you, man. They're like, it's just a bigger box, it's just a bigger building with walls for me and my family. Like, yeah, it's nice, but end of the day, what is it? It's not like I'm having a kid. It's not like I'm getting married. It's not like these things are, they're just possessions. And so that's very human, I would say, to kind of evaluate things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a personal experience at work where there's this homeless lady who lives by my workplace. Mm-hmm. And there was one time that me and my coworker Noel, we were discussing her, and he was like, I saw her, and she seemed to be the most content she could ever be. And she was literally just sitting outside of a supermarket eating scrambled eggs. And she just looked happy and smiling and just like looking at the sun.
Yeah.
And she's literally living in a tent on the side of the road. And it really is all about gratitude at the end of the day.
Yeah. I forget what the metric for this is, but some person made up this scale of happiness, and basically to prove that happiness is just basically how things happen within a certain amount of time. So they did a study where somebody who had just won the lottery and somebody who had just recently been paralyzed were evaluated on a scale of who was happier. Obviously, the man that won the lottery was much happier than the person who had just been paralyzed. However, they gave it some time and they checked in again, and they found that their relative happiness after like a year or so was about the same. So the person that was just instantly given $100 million versus the person that was just instantly paralyzed from, I don't know, say like their neck down, they're relatively the same amount of happy, because it's not about what's happened to you, it's about your perception and I guess your just perception of the world and your allowance of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever speak to this lady?
I have not. Unfortunately.
You should ask her sometime, maybe, like, what keeps you smiling so good. Maybe even tell her, whenever I see you smile, it makes me think about how good things can be.
That's beautiful. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, if it's so profound that you're willing to share it with me today, I mean, I can't imagine that. I mean, myself personally, if I was like, if I saw that, I'd be like, lady, I gotta tell you, like, outside of saying, like, too bad you're homeless and don't have a place to go if it gets too cold, or you don't have things that I have. But, at the end of the day, it's such a miracle you could be happy. But just in the same way, like, yeah, that is kind of how, I mean, that's kind of how I would feel. Like, I'm not going to say that to somebody, but I would kind of feel like, even though you have less than me, or maybe you're worse off, you're happier than I am, or at least appear to be so. I think that's something to celebrate, really.
Yeah, I will say from personal experience, the more my life has become, I guess, restricted or disciplined would be a better word, the happier I've become.
Really?
Like, I mean, I don't know if we talked about this on the last episode, but I was experiencing a lot of digestive issues,
Oh yes.
and I'm on the carnivore diet now, which is just exclusively meat.
How's that?
And and so the first week and a half was a little disappointing, but I had to power through it because I knew like it would be very painful for my gut microbiome to adjust.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but now I'm on 23 days. I've been doing it since the beginning of the year,
Good
and
for
I
you,
feel
man.
so much. I feel so much better now. Like barely any digestive pain at all.
Wow.
My energy is great, and I can sleep well, and I can wake up early with energy, and it's pretty nice.
That's
And
fantastic.
it's also just a nice thing to be disciplined in, I guess.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, honestly, I'll say that they maybe have problems that they don't know can be fixed by just changing their diet.
Exactly.
If you're
Yeah.
watching this episode, allow Aiden's experience to kind of nudge you possibly in a new direction that you could change your entire life just by changing your eating habits. You really can. It's possible.
Yeah, and this isn't me like saying like eat meat, become a carnivore.
Tell him, Aiden.
My
Eat
friend
meat.
Noel, this is so funny.
Yeah.
My great mentor Noel, and he is the exact opposite of me diet wise. He is a vegetarian.
Oh, really?
He hasn't eaten meat in 20 years, but we're like two sides of the same coin. We just have.
That's really cool, actually. That's interesting because you can like compare. Like, I'm sure he gets a lot more vitamins than you, but I'm sure you get a lot more protein than him.
Well, I supplement. You know.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you kind of have to. Yeah.
But I know that from my research, a lot of the vitamins that you don't get in like the muscle and fats from animals, you actually get from the organs. So I've been trying. Well, I've been supplementing with some like beef liver supplements, which have vitamin C and that other stuff.
That's good. Yeah, you definitely have to have vitamin C if you're on the carnivore diet. It gets scurvy.
Yeah, but I do want to eat actual beef liver though. Once I work myself up to it. Right now though, it's just ribeyes, ribeyes every day.
That's pretty good. Do you eat eggs or do you like what's your?
Yeah, I eat eggs, but mostly it's just macking down like 2 pounds of ribeye every day.
I mean, honestly, that does kind of sound expensive as well, but that sounds like a good time.
Oh, let me tell you, I spent over $100 on these today.
Today,
well over 100.
Wow, man, yeah. You would do well if you lived in like the mountains, if you had like your own farm, if you were like, whether
That's
you had like a girlfriend or not, but if it was just you, a plot of land, some chickens, some cows, maybe pigs, if you wanted to raise them for slaughter, whatever you choose, you just have like your own middle of nowhere homestead where you would just like solar farm or whatever else you would do, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I would love to have one day. I mean, I feel like I'd be content with that.
Yeah.
I want to learn the skills first. There's a local farm by me who they let people come and volunteer, and they don't pay you in cash, but they do pay you in the meat that
that's super cool
that they get from the cows. So I think this summer, once it warms up, go down there, learn how to become a ranch hand, and then by the time I'm 40, hopefully I can be the cowboy I always dreamed of being.
Oh wow! I mean, you got a lot of time. It's like 2015. That's how old are you? You're 23.
23, yeah.
So that's gonna be. You just had a birthday not so long ago, so.
Yes.
So yeah, that'll basically be 25 years or 15 years for you, 17 years for you for your 40. You got quite a while.
I'll learn how to be a cowboy soon enough.
Dude, that sounds super fulfilling, honestly. Growing up, I was raised around animals. I'm sure I've said this so many different times on the podcast, or just maybe to you, or just in general. Growing up, we had eater chickens we raised for food, chickens we raised for eggs. We actually have, right now, if I went out back, I could pluck a chicken out of our backyard, and, we get eggs every day still. We had bees, we raised rabbits, which were absolutely terrible. I would not suggest to many people to raise rabbits. It wasn't really worth it, and they get really crazy diseases. We had garden boxes. My brother grew a 450-pound pumpkin in our backyard. We had we had like 17 garden boxes that were growing like all these different things constantly. And that is the life right there. That right there, man. Just knowing where your food comes from and knowing that like you are the last person to touch something before it goes in your body. God, it's just there's something different about that. I'll give a little gruesome story. The most odd extent of all of this. So we had some neighbors that were like, "Oh, you guys have chickens too, or you guys have chickens? We're gonna try to get some chickens," and they did, and they ended up getting a rooster. And we're like, "Oh, you can't have a rooster if you're trying to get eggs." So they were like, "Do you want the rooster?" And we were like, "Yeah, we'll take it," and we killed it and ate it that night. That night, dude. Let me tell you,
That's good eating, brother.
yeah, but you know what? While we're sitting at the table, it was the most. My mom put a the warm chicken body in a crock pot. It was never cold. That animal's body was not cold for a second before we ate it. And it was the craziest thing. They were so proficient in it. They did it so quickly. And all of a sudden, my mom just comes inside and she's got like feathers on her still. And she's like, look. And I was like, yep, you did it. You did it. And we're eating dinner, the quietest dinner ever. But, yeah, it's fine. You get over things like that. But all this to say, basically, like that way of life, to me, that's preferred. I when I have kids, I want to make sure that they're raised around like farm animals, like chickens, because it's a good way to be. It's healthy for the mind. It's healthy for the soul. It teaches you a lot as well. So I commend you, Aiden. I think that's a good idea.
Are you familiar with Thomas Jefferson?
My favorite president. Oh, one of my favorite presidents, but yes.
I loved his idea of America the most when he was like, this should just be perpetual farmland. Like that was one of his big things.
I do like Thomas Jefferson. There's obviously modern day criticisms I could have of Thomas Jefferson. But,
yeah.
He was a slave owner. He did write the Declaration of Independence, so it's like, oh, you declared your independence, but also had slaves.
Not the independence of the other ones.
Yeah, there were some people. I actually had to double check this because I had thought that there was somebody who had freed their slaves immediately after signing the Declaration of Independence. There was one person. I can't check right now, so this is kind of just hearsay, I suppose. But there was one person who had freed his slaves before, with his intention of doing so as like a way of like, we can't also, but it wasn't like I can't sign the Declaration until I freed my slaves. It was just kind of like I would almost say coincidence. But for the most part, a lot of the people that signed the Declaration of Independence were slave owners. So that's kind of a difficult topic. I mean, it's not really difficult. It's just kind of like, I don't know. What do they say? Never meet your heroes. So, like, imagine going back in time and being like, hey, founding fathers, all 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence. Guess what? Slavery's outlawed in less than 100 years from now. So, but regardless, how do we get talking about this? Thomas Jefferson, yeah, with farmland. The country was much different then. But I agree. I think a lot of people, I feel like, what's a way to say? Social inequity would be calmed by a little bit of farm work. If people were like, oh, this is how farmers do it, this is what the work they do, this is the type of care they have to provide for animals just to make sure strangers can eat, you know what? Maybe I give you a little bit of humility. I'll tell you, it probably would give you a little humility. It's honest work. It really is. And maybe that's part of the reason that you would like it as well, right?
Yeah. Because I don't know.
But yeah.
Every other job at this point, all I can see is flaws. But when I look at someone who's like just farming, I'm like, this is the bare necessities. It's like he just makes food.
It's just simple living without excess. Like, I mean, we could probably have an entire conversation about this philosophy in total, just like living without excess and enjoying what you have because, like, it's just enough. Like, just having enough and being like, yep, I'm satisfied.
That's all I want. It's just enough.
Yeah. You know what, Aiden? I will have you back on, probably. I'm sure I will. But for a conversation, if you do want to talk about kind of like more of a simple living and like your aspirations of being a cowboy, if that's truly what you want to do, because I have, plenty of background in that as well, like personal experience, but also great advents to eventually, kind of have a similar lifestyle as that as well. So that would be very interesting. But you know what else is interesting is our sponsor for today. As always, we have Socks with John. As always, Socks with John. So we just got to do a quick promotion for that today. Go check out our shorts. It's on this channel. TikTok's not getting banned for like another 70 days or something like that. We'll see what happens. But thank you everybody tuning in for Socks with John. More important, I'd like to talk about today, or at least for this promotion area, portion of the video, is Kuma Knives. Aiden, I'd like to hear what you have to say about your father's business, because he actually does a really good job. And like the karambits he makes, and some of the advice he's actually given me with using Antler, because when I was doing the guitars, I had to work with Antler. He helped me out a bit. A lot of experience. Your dad's created some incredibly like delicate but robust knives that are just very, very interesting, that I would definitely encourage people to go check out. I'm not sure if there's anything that you could share that I don't know, but if you could, please.
I mean, you pretty much summed it up pretty well. He doesn't really have like a website you can go to where you can go out and order knives, but he sells his knives at knife shows, and he does have a Facebook page that you can check out. And I'm sure if you hit him up on there, he'd be happy to, let you commission something.
And that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I'll definitely put his Facebook in the description, and I'm sure there's something on the screen as now. Or actually, I just forgot. I do a new background since the last video for the podcast. So right now it should be like something promoting your father, and boom, now it should be the regular background, which is like a rainbow gradient of like outer space and something like that. So hopefully that looks cool. I haven't had any feedback on this yet, so hopefully it looks cool and it's worth my time, because it kind of took a while to create. But everybody, please go check out the Kuma Knives. It's what's your father's first name?
Jamie.
I want to say Jaden, but I was like, that's not right. Yes, it's Jamie Lupel. Go check that out. The link's going to be in the description. There's something on the screen for it again right now. Boop, there it is. Very nice. And as well, actually, I'd like to talk about this, kind of our last thing for today. I'm not sure if I've spoken to you about this yet, but we do plan on hosting an anime convention in Binghamton at the Doubletree in downtown in May this year. There's certainly a lot going on in the works right now, but I guess first I'd like to invite you if you'd like to come. It's going to be free admission to anybody, but also if there's any type of for vendors, we wanted to invite them as well. I think the knives would be interesting actually, because it's not just going to be anime. We're thinking, and maybe this is the question I have for you as somebody who's like Star Wars. Should we do it on like May the 4th? It's going to be a Sunday. We could have, because the idea is that we're going to have a cosplay competition centered. That's going to be like the whole, it's like the 8th time I said antithesis. That's going to be the whole centralized idea or the theme for the anime convention, is that there's going to be a cosplay contest and the winner's going to win, whatever the prize pool is.
I think that'd be a good idea. I like that day.
Yeah, I think that'll work out. But it's gonna be like an anime nerd convention, where it just has like everything from like nerd culture. Like it could be absolutely stuff from Star Wars. It could be like bobbleheads and manga or comic books or figurines, body pillows, costumes, any type of like toys or anything, absolutely anything. So we're really hoping that people. I mean, I've reached out to some people and they were like, yeah, we're ecstatic for this. There's some comic book shops that are down. They're going to come. I've tried to reach out to the lady that I needed to speak to for exact details. But once we have that confirmed, we can get a price. We can go to the people I need to talk to get the money for it. And then we just got to basically coordinate. And it shouldn't be too hard. It's January. We have until May. But that's the idea, basically. If you would like to contribute at all, honestly... I'll talk to you about something after the podcast that I have in mind. Try to remind me about it. It's with my ice cream and with the anime convention.
Gotcha.
For everything else, basically, if you would like to come in, if you have anything you'd like to promote at the very least, or if you want to be a sponsor, I would love to have you there. Like everybody, I just want this to be as big as possible. We're hoping to have like 400 people show. That'd be kind of cool. And I do have plenty of experience doing. Yeah, I hope it goes well, man. I hope it does. You like anime, right? Or at least kind of.
To be honest, I'm not big into anime. I've seen Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I know Last Airbender isn't really anime, but I've seen that.
Yeah, sure.
And I started watching one boxing anime. I'm forgetting the name.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Something or other.
I'm not. I couldn't tell you the name honestly, but does he have like big hair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more of a Star Wars guy. That's my.
Oh, that'll be
my
perfect then. We'll have to do it on the 4th. That'll be a Sunday. It's the first. The first weekend in May. So hopefully that'll work out. But yeah, I just try to mention something about it every episode until eventually, like, we have some big news about it. But yeah, hopefully that'd be something you're interested in. It's gonna be free admission for everybody else. The idea is that if you want to do the cosplay contest, it's gonna be $10. And then everybody, they put their money into this pool. You win 50% of that pool. 50% goes to our venue, like renting the equipment, paying for the security, whatever else we have to pay for. So the idea is the more people do the cosplay contest, the more people want to sign up and do that, the larger the pool prize is, and more money that allows the show to be bigger every year. So, say somebody's like, oh, we'll give like $10,000 to the prize pool. We'll be like, oh, that's fantastic. Hopefully, I want people from like California that are like special effects artists being like, oh, I'm coming in for the cosplay contest. I'm going to win this year. I'll be like, yes, that'd be perfect. So that's kind of like some of the ideas that I have, at least. Moreover, I mean, that's just something I could talk about once again in another episode, I'm sure. But anything else so far today that you wanted to discuss, Aiden? We kind of went perfectly, like, right down the line. I think everything got explored pretty deeply. You certainly had a lot of quotes that shed a lot of light on the situation, which were very helpful as well. So I appreciate that.
Oh, of course, I tried.
Yeah, you did great.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything. Unless you have some questions for me, then I don't know if I have too much to add.
I kind of did hear your philosophy on, like, your own personal idea for Stoicism, how you're an aspiring Stoic, and how you don't believe there's necessarily, like, a penultimate Stoic goal. Like, there's kind of, like, the progression towards Stoicism.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, fear of having you reiterate yourself, but what do you think kind of is, like, your main philosophy for your life? Is it Stoicism, or is there some, like, quasi-formulated idea of what it is?
Philosophy of my life. I guess it would just simply be to do my duty as a human, whatever that may be, with the best positive intentions I can.
That's pretty good.
And I guess Stoicism helps out with that.
Yeah,
I hope I just live life to the fullest. That's about it. That's all I can hope to do.
I think your focus on self-discipline is pretty much the entire embodiment of the idea Stoicism. Eating the way that you do to try to cure yourself of something that you're dealing with. Respecting people that have gone through things that you would not want to, but can admire them as well, and promoting ideas that people need to be more considerate and help others is a very good philosophy to live by. So I can commend you in that. I think you're on the right path. As much as my words matter to anybody, I think you're doing a very good job, and that you're a good example for other people if they wanted to become more in touch with their own philosophical side and become more of a, what's a word to say? Fleshed out human being, I guess. You do a good job, Aiden.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I guess I would, for my ending message.
Sure.
I'd say to anyone out there, don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to become someone new. Always assume the person you're talking to knows something you don't. And above all else, love everyone as much as you can.
Oh, that's pretty good advice. I hope everybody today it's able to absorb what we've said in the way that we've tried to present the information. You certainly do a good job, and having a hardened resolve and knowing who you are and knowing that your actions have consequences on people. I think you do a great job of embodying that and identifying that hypocrites exist and that you don't want to be like that. You want to be somebody that lives by the standard they try to set for others. I think that's a very important goal. So Thank you, Aiden. Absolutely. I very much appreciate you coming on and being able to do this, have this discussion with me today. I think, as always, we're able to share information that people can really take to heart and use in a constructive and productive manner. So once again, thanks for coming on today and sharing some of your thoughts on this. You definitely emboldened my perspective and enlightened me as well. So once again,
thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Aiden. I think that's pretty much it for today. You spoke your last very little piece. I don't think there's anything I necessarily have to say. Are you all set for today? That's good. You don't have any like one-liners to throw in here at the end?
Zoinks, yabba dabba doo. I don't know. Just have a good day, everybody.
Yeah. All right, that's pretty good actually. I think I'll take that. But as for everybody else who's watching today, thank you always for tuning in to the In One Ear Out podcast. As always, I'm your host, John, and we will see you again real soon, I'm sure. Take care, everybody. Adios, mis muchachos, and peace out.